A very good morning to you. This is Breakfast Weekend on Impact Africa Television, IATV. I am Ayu Durujayi, welcoming you on board.
And of course, my name is Kenny Orire. Welcome to another edition of the program. January is fast moving.
January.
I mean February,
Hey!
sorry.
Some people are so in the past.
We can't believe that the year has gone so fast.
That's not
It was just
so
like
fast,
it was just like yesterday we started January and here is February.
Well,
almost getting to the middle. And of course, it's election month.
and some people, oh, okay, you went ahead of me. Before the election, some people are already thinking about next Thursday.
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure. Are you sure the election thing is not really going to affect that?
I don't understand.
Okay.
How do you mean?
They say there's always no, they don't have enough money in circulation during election period. Yeah.
You think so?
That's what people say.
But what do you feel?
Well, personally, I don't think it affects in any way.
Simple.
But that's me. I mean,
It's about the masses. It's about the people.
I'm just one person. So in case some people get that excuse, they shouldn't be angry. They should just take it in good faith.
See, before you can show love to your country, you have to show love. It starts inside. You have to arrange the internal structure.
You can show love.
You put that love out there.
You can show love without money. I mean, it doesn't have to be about money. You know, it could be time. You know, just spend time.
Doing what?
We just spend time together, and I mean that should go a long way.
Just staring at each other.
We can make each other laugh. I mean, crack jokes.
We've been making each other laugh since. Say another one.
No, we're going to do something special that day, as far as that is concerned.
Like.
No, that's a secret. That's where the guy, you know, brings up his A game.
Anyway, since you're refusing to go my way, let me go your way. Yes, February 16 is just around the corner, and you know, feelings are quite high. A lot of people have been sharing different reactions, sharing different feelings about what they would be doing, for example, on that day. And you know, while we have some people who at this stage surprisingly are still quite laid back about going out to vote, or even mobilizing other people, you know, where you are, you know you're going to vote on your own, or where you are, you see people saying, Nike, go out to vote. No, I'm not interested in that. And you think it's okay.
Yeah, well,
you know, I think people need to wake up to the fact that as much as you will be going out, there's also a level of responsibility in getting people to go out on that day as well.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's not a time to, like we said last week, it's not a time to just sit back at home and watch the TV, follow the events as they unfold on the TV, and get a cup of tea, chill, relax, and all that. It's actually a matter of for me, it's a matter of life and death. Definitely. Because lives of people are hanging in the balance. Yeah. So we have to exercise this, you know, right. It's our right, and we can't be the ones denying ourselves the exercise of this right. So encourage people to go out and vote. Of course, you too go out and vote too, because we need to decide the people that should be ruling us.
I'm actually looking forward to a time, because you know, I'm just considering the different excuses that people would give for not going out to vote on that day. I'm looking forward to a time where we'd actually have elections be a properly instituted public holiday. You know, that we have some people who would go to work. You know, people say that it's a Saturday anyway. You know, a lot of people won't go to work. But we have some people whose work days run from Monday to Sunday, and so they still have to show up at work. Since this is a thing that, well, except you know the essential content givers, maybe police officers, hospitals, maybe with the media, every other organization should be, it should be imposed on them to let all their workers have that day off. I'm looking, well, I'm just hoping for a day like that.
Well, it's a Saturday, and that makes it debatable because it's Saturday. And also for those organizations that, or parastatals or whatever, that have to function on that day, it can be rotated. You go vote, some people will stay behind. You know, while you're exercising your own vote, some people will stay behind. When they are done, they come back, take over from you so that they too can go. You know, even doctors, they have to work, but you know, they run this shift thing. So if I'm on duty, that day. Those who are not on duty can go ahead and vote, and they can come back to relieve those who are on duty so that they too can go. Yes, so that they too can go. I think it's a workable system, except you don't want to go and vote. So there is really nobody has any excuse.
Yeah, you know, I think that's what it is too. When people bring up all these things, what if, because of this, I think it's just, if you set your mind to do something, you will go all the way to get it done.
It's just that we always look for a way out when we don't want to. When we are not willing, of course, we just try to look for a way around it to pretend like I have a cogent reason not to. But there is no reason that is cogent enough. Just go out and vote. You need to vote.
Before you know, people will start asking for free bus transports from their homes to the polling units. Even though, you know, essentially polling units are around. But when you sort out public holidays, the next thing people tell you, that place is quite far. I have a sprain on my leg.
It still boils down to not being willing to do it. I know some people have said, I don't want to vote because my vote doesn't count. I've done it like 4 times already, and at the end of the day, it's not the person we voted for that was declared and all that. You know, we always have excuses.
The last election, you know, showed us so many coalition officers, people at home, who didn't go out anyway to vote, but they were, when it was time to count, yes, how many, this one plus this one. You know, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond waiting for the coalition officers to start counting and then for them. Go there, do what you need to do. You can decide to go home, you can decide to stay there, but first of all, exercise that right. You know,
the last election was quite for me. Message. The last election, the 2015 election, was quite outstanding or dynamic, in the sense that people voted and stayed back till the votes were counted. They were monitoring every single move, and at the end of the day, we found out that sometimes when we say it doesn't count, it's because we don't really go out to push. If we stay where we should stay and take our positions, then it may be difficult for some things to be passed behind our back. So we just need to do what is right. I think that's all.
Kenny, how did you feel when you heard about the Vice President's helicopter crash?
Scared. I was really scared. I was scared, and at the same time,
who? Him?
Nationally, it's not going to be business as usual if he hadn't survived that crash. You know, it's going to raise a lot of questions. The election process may be affected. So many things will be affected, and then some people may actually, rise up to say that it was planned, and the man was killed and all that. So it's going to put us under a lot of pressure. There's going to be tension in the air. And the election in itself may not be as smooth as it should be. So for me, it was a very close shave, but it was a big
for people
deliverance
for people who were raising brows as to how it came about that he was in that particular helicopter at that time, and then there were allegations of foul play somewhere. Are you thinking in that line as well?
Well, I didn't care about the foul play.
Okay.
It wasn't something I wasn't worried about the foul play. I think I was more grateful to God that it didn't happen, or whatever the plan was not successful. You know, that's, for me, it's important. Any other thing, whoever planned if it was planned or was not planned, I don't really care. I just thank God that it didn't succeed. That's all, and that's very important.
It's emotional for me, especially after I saw a particular video online of when he went home after that crash. He went home to see his mom, and the woman was dancing.
His brother was in the helicopter with him. Wow. His other brother was there with him. So the old woman would have lost 2 sons at the same time, on the same day. It would have been disastrous.
Well, another happy moment, although I think this came with mixed feelings also. The students who've been home for about 3 months now, who suddenly were called, suddenly,
the strike,
were called to resume immediately. I mean, the next day that academic work will start. And these are students who, well, I won't say all of them were clamoring to go back, but we had a number of them, out there a number of times saying, please, whatever differences the federal government and the academic staff union of universities have, they should just resolve it and let them go back to school. It's been 1 month, and then it was 2 months. It's been 2 months, and then it was 3 months. And, people just kept asking for a quick resolution. And then that evening when we heard that the strike had been called off, on my status on WhatsApp, you need to see the so-called students. You know, I had a particular person who said they should resolve this thing now, and I'm thinking, you do not want to go back to school, and I think that's what this thing does each time when you take them away for so long from serious academic work, and then all of a sudden you're asking them to come back. Most of them are unwilling. Most of them, you know, who already thought, let me quickly get something done in that time, are already getting used to that new thing. For example, people who would have given entrepreneurship a chance or some other training, and right there in the middle of it, you're asking them to come back, and they feel like, what is all this now? And coupled with the fact that they'll be coming in to start an examination almost immediately. Come on.
Well, for me, I think whatever other things they got engaged in the process of the strike was, they can't deny, you can't deny the fact that a very important aspect of their lives was being put on hold.
Sure.
You know, if you start off a business and in quote you're doing well, you still have something pending. Your education is still pending.
They know, of course, they'll go back.
So it's important to just conclude that, and then you can look forward to the future, rather than have such a such a huge thing pending, and then because you are attending to other things that are bringing money, you now want to abandon. I think for me, I think it's just a way forward. They're moving forward. I mean, it's a way forward for them. Get this thing done. When you're out of school, then you can face your life. And but this should not be. I don't think we are doing enough to curb these things. It keeps reoccurring, and we don't seem to be doing enough about it. I think it's high time we really stood up as a people and found solution to this thing. We can't keep denying students, I mean, our children, the opportunity to, education and all that. We can't keep putting their lives on hold for whatever reasons. I think this issue should be sorted. I mean, should be sorted once and for all. And
whether it's been sorted once and for all is just a matter of speculation at this time, until the next time they call for another strike, and then people start hearing I'm just
appealing that we should please
once and for all.
We can't continue really like this. These people need the best, and they should get it.
Well, Kenny, on the menu today we have very interesting things for our audience at home. Last week we promised you that it will be a really, really detailed and robust package on the town hall meetings that the presidential candidates of about 4 political parties honored with the journalist Kadaria Ahmed. Will be taking a very detailed look at each of these candidates and the prospects, the manifestos that they had on that day.
And also we're going to be looking at our culture. It's a lot seems to be happening to it. People are saying that it's dying if it's not completely dead. So we're taking a look at culture. How do we revive it? How do we give it the value that it deserves again? And that, well, of course, we have someone very interesting that will be taking a look at that, who is living the culture.
And we have something for you on fashion trends, and how to make money out of it. You don't want to miss any part of all this that we've mentioned. Stay with us on Breakfast Weekend. We'll be back. Thank you so much for being a part of Breakfast Weekend, and thank you especially for staying with us. And we'll be kicking off our first segment, as we intimated you earlier on the focus on the presidential town hall meetings that was hosted by Kadaria Ahmed, the whole of January, the Wednesdays in January particularly. The presidential candidates have been dubbed different names in different quarters. Some have issues with their economic plans. Some think that some people want to turn the country into a drug hub. Some think that some people just want to keep repeating the same things. Just different thoughts coming from different quarters. And we'll be exploring, each of these different things and the things they had to offer on that in that meeting the other day. Doing this with us on this very first part of the segment, we'll have Mr. Feishiton Ijimakinwa, particularly, is a public affairs analyst, and we have Mr. Amuda Musigbudi. He's also a public affairs analyst. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Before we kick off the interview or the discussion, more appropriately proper, we'll take a look at the clip from the meeting.
Why you believe Nigerians should elect you as president and vice president in a few weeks when they go to the polls?
Thank you, Canaria. In the last almost 4 years now, we have witnessed the performance of the current administration. And I believe Nigerians should be able to compare the records of achievements of the previous PDP administration and the current APC administration. In summary, the APC administration came into office with a promise to address 3 serious issues. One of which is to improve the economy, to fight corruption, and also to contain the Boko Haram insurgency in the Northeast. At the time they came in, Nigeria's economic performance was fairly good. Our GDP growth was about 6%. Immediately they came in, they took us into recession. And we are still getting out into recession. Our GDP growth now is about 2%. I don't think that's a good performance.
So,
secondly, when you go to the fight against corruption, either today or yesterday, we had the latest Transparency International report. We have not fared better than when the APC administration came into office.
Well, I said it much earlier at our National Executive Committee of our party, that if my party recommends me to its executive, I will contest. And I did that to save time and wide discussions among members of the party. So those who felt very strongly about it, they left the party, and the party nominated me. Why? Is because I felt that the 3 fundamental objectives we campaigned on in 2015 are still relevant. And we want to remind Nigerians to see when we started, 2015, where we are now, what we have been able to do in between this time of 3.5 years with the resources and the time available to us.
Thank you. Good evening, Nigerians and those in the audience tonight. Nigeria has been around for 58 years, led by men with little or no ideas on how to move a nation from any destination to the other. And as a result, what you have as a nation today, what was started as a nation has become a business. Nigeria is not working for the people of Nigeria, it's working only for a few people that continue to enjoy at the expense of a majority. And as a young person, in 1989, Nigeria's biggest problem was taking power from a bunch of military men and giving it to a majority through a democratic process. That was why I was expelled twice from the university and ended up spending 6 years instead of 4 years. I was attacked, I was jailed, I was beaten, I was tortured. But luckily in 1989, sorry, 1999, we had democratic rule. But what could have been democratic rule, with due respect, became a moronocratic rule, where morons ride roughshod on the Nigerian people. We are young people who have been exposed, who have intellects, who have capacity, and who have seen the rest of the world. We've seen the best of two worlds, Nigeria and elsewhere, and we've also seen the best of even the worst of the two worlds. Today, we are here with fresh ideas. We are here with innovative ideas.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Kadri. We think that the time has come for Nigeria to have transformational and effective and competent leadership, which it has not had for many, many years. The challenges of the 21st century call for a very different type of leadership from the type that Nigeria has had over the past 20 years. We need to take our place in the 21st century. Nigeria's youth make up over 50% of the voting population. So this is an election about their future.
Well, gentlemen, there we have it. The different candidates with the different reasons that they think they should be voted in, as a president of the country for the next 4 years. I'll start with you, Mr. Feishiton. Do you think any of these responses to that question, did any of it raise any flag for you?
Well, for me, it's important for us to identify, like Kenny said earlier, what are the challenges facing the nation? And then for those who are coming into post or who are aspiring to come into positions of leadership, what are they bringing? I'll tell you the truth. It's another thing to say, okay, what is on ground, I will tackle. But more importantly, what's the value that I'm going to add? For me, the only person that seemed to have a clear-cut idea of what is needed and what should be in place and what will be added to what is already in place is probably Kingsley Moghalu. And because he's been able to not just articulate by just saying it, he's been able to document what he has seen as a problem, what he sees that can be done, and what he's going to do, what he will do. So those are three fundamental things. He has identified the problem, what will be done, and what he's going to do. So it's more important, not because the same problem that we've experienced from independence, the same problems are still there. But more than that, if we tried plethora of ideas to tackle these problems and we don't seem to have made enough progress, probably what we actually need right now is innovation. But innovation is not always about creating new things. Innovation could be creating new methods, creating new ideas. You understand? So you can actually attack the old thing, do you understand, with new ideas and new ways. So for me, for most of them, it's always about especially for the two biggest parties, it's always about attacking the other one for what this one has done, what this one. Nigeria's problem goes beyond 16 years of PDP. I always say that. There's a bedrock, and if the foundation is not dealt with, whatever is put on it is going to, after a while, you notice cracks and it will crumble. So that's a problem for me.
Well, I must say this, that first, if you look at all the interviews, unfortunately, all the series of presidential debates and even conversations have not dwelt on what are the real problems. Unfortunately, the candidates have been led on most times, to deal with what I call inanities. Now, we've been running on the deficit budget for 3 years. Budget performance of the past 3 years has been less than 60%. In fact, since 2016, it's been less than 50%. Now, by 2019, there is definitely sure that OPEC is going to cut our production quota, because they had left us, off the radar of cutting production quota because of the economic situation of the country. And now that we are out of recession, at least for 4 consecutive economic quarters, OPEC is going to cut our quota. And now we're sending the budget out onto, on the basis of 2.2 million, barrels production per day. And even at the moment, our production, capacity is not even up to that. Then of course we are sending the budget out on, a projection, which is for me just a mere phantasmagoria. Now, so what are the issues? Economists is very important. Another issue is security. Now, how well have all these candidates talked about the issues of security? I've seen a mere glossing over of the elders farmer crisis, because to a large extent we have decided to look at some of these inanities by the different conversation based on the different conversations. So we have not been able to look at so if we now talk about economy and security, which for me are the major things. Now let's look at how well have they talked about this, or all the candidates. Now it is obvious that they have only looked at it from their own, what I consider, point of view. Now some are pushing a pseudo-socialist idea, like the whole idea of transferring wealth to the poor of the poor, and of course some are pushing also a confused capitalist idea, like the one given by the candidate of the PDP, and of course to what I'll call a middle ground, which is also a way of a confused notion, the one pushed by Mogalu, talking about having to create wealth in a country where there is a poverty level of over about 100 million people. Now, so then of course a candidate is telling us is going to push forward 100,000 naira
minimum wage in a country that is suffering from so much deficit and paucity of funds, and states are already not even on a good level when it comes to equity. So if you look at some of these things, it tells you that a lot of these candidates are just trying to push, like they say, anything is fair in politics. Just push out, any idea for whatsoever.
Well, that may be debatable, because further on in the interview, a lot of them broke this down. This was about the first question they were asked. A number of them talked about how they would. I listened to the argument. I listened to the argument. For instance, Mogalu said, okay, how is he going to create the funds? And he talked about blocking leakages. And I laugh. You see, there are even some leakages you don't even have to think about. Let me give you an instance. The leakage that NURTW on its own accrues goes into trillions, not of naira, of dollars. Let's look at this analogy. Now, from the statistics, there are over about 100,000 motorcycles in Oyo State. Now, each commercial motorcyclist pays 500 naira daily. Now, how much goes to the coffers of government? Each commercial bus or cab driver pays about 1,000 naira daily. Now, so it tells you that when you are able to plug some of these leakages, yes, we'll have it. But then, are we also going to say, because that's also, when Kadari was asking Mogalu as regards whether he's going to lay off civil servants to, to pursue his idea, he was diplomatic about it. See, let us be frank with ourselves. One is that we have a civil service that is overbloated. Two, we have a civil service that is redundant. So you would I'm trying to get what you're trying to say now. You would agree, or you would encourage him to lay off some civil servants?
You see, it may be the tough. See, I have socialist tendencies, but then there are certain things that are just real. Okay,
like what?
now for instance, he was talking about transferring them to some other areas where like the police. He mentioned the police, for instance. So a civil servant that is redundant in, let's say, Ministry of Finance will transfer to the police, and then he becomes a police officer. Now we already know the problem we face with our police. Now I don't want to go into theorization. The whole problem of legitimization, and now a frustrated man in quotes is now transferred to the police. See, have we been able to solve the problem in the real sense of it? I think, and that's my personal opinion, that yes, we have an overbloated civil service. Now, do you lay them off? It will also be suicidal for you to lay them off in an economy as ours.
Sure. So what would you suggest?
Now, so what would I suggest? Why not look at it and ensure that there is a target for each of these ministries? Most of our civil servants have become redundant because there are no targets for them. So they just believe that, okay, I can go into... Now, I was happy that someone like Mogali talked about productivity, which I think is very key.
So, apart from targets, is that all?
We can talk about targets. And two is that, see, you cannot run a government where you don't want to offend people. people are no longer productive and they have refused to be productive. Because I said they are no longer productive and they have not refused. Because now let's also ask ourselves some sincere questions. When last have these civil servants and public servants been given trainings? A lot of states have not done trainings for their civil servants in the past 4 years.
All right, let's move a little away from there and come to Mr. Feishiton. He talked about the economy and how we can work around that. Let's look at security. This is something that the incumbent government have, in their cardinal, it's in the front burner, so to say. And the candidate of the PDP in that clip talked about how he doesn't feel that the incumbent government have really tackled it as much as they said they would. He's coming on to say that he would do this, he would do a number of things to fix security. What are your thoughts about security at the moment, and what are things you think should be brought on board aside from what they said?
It is very funny that once we talk security in Nigeria, actually, even at that level, when they're talking security, they've reduced it to the problem in the north. And I'm telling you that before Boko Haram became what it is today, we've always had security challenges in the country. Somebody in some parts of the country will say, oh, during my tenure, it's been 4 years or so years of peace. And I'm telling you, oh, because we've not had rumpers at the bus stops, so you think that's a security? I'm telling you, do we still have kidnapping? Do we still have riotous situations in places? Do we still have people who cannot even work businesses? Our businesses, do they close at a particular time of the day? What will make somebody say, oh, why can't we have a 24-hour economy in this country? We're talking that we're moving to the global stage, and we're not globalized to the point to do things the way they are done everywhere. Why do lights need to go off at night? And I'm saying, oh, a particular area is a no-go area. So for me, security it makes my stomach turn. Each time I hear when we're talking security is about the fact that, oh,
farmers and herders.
Exactly. Or the president telling me we've decimated the rank and file of Boko Haram. Security is a challenge. You understand? The IDP camps, as long as they are still existing, it's telling me that we've not even made any form of progress in that area if you choose to see that as your focal point. But the more important thing is the fact that in security, I would say that none of them, and I'm saying that category, none of them seem to have an idea of what are the security challenges we're facing in this country, number one. Number two, what are the demands of the security situations in this country? Then number three, and more importantly, is the fact that what are the solutions? The fact is we have security problem. Security problem is affecting our economy, is affecting the social life, is even affecting as mundane thing as even education. Because the thing is, people do not know, people don't feel safe in this society, and people just feel things are not going. And when things are not working security-wise, so when somebody now comes and tells me, oh, the territories we've lost, we've regained some territories, or kidnapping is not, it is saddening. Just like he mentioned, you can't take a taxi ride from one point in the city to another point in the city without the fear of molestation. You understand? Without the fear of, oh, there could just be a mob action anywhere. That is security. Somebody locks down a particular section of the city because he thinks he has control over that part of the city. That is security. Somebody feels, oh, I can't go into a particular area, there's no thoroughfare from one place to the other. That is security. That is even fundamental neighborhood security. So security goes beyond, oh, we're losing the fight in the northeast, or we're regaining some territories we have lost or we had lost pre-2015. But most importantly is the fact that I said the security architectural framework in this country must be re-examined, and none of them is giving me enough assurances to tell me that that area or that aspect of our life is secure.
You say this, and I remember there was a story I saw somewhere about, even if we're still going to focus on Boko Haram and farmers herders clashes, I saw a report somewhere that about 400,000 IDPs are set to, partake in the coming polls. And I'm thinking, what are their thoughts? I mean, you had your town or whatever decimated at some point, and you've had to camp in an IDP camp for so long already, and you're trying to vote. What is coming in as the new thing what is the change or whatever that they're expecting, and I'm trying to imagine what their frame of mind is at this time. Could you have any idea as to what it is?
Just 2 days, no, just this morning.
Okay.
I have the Twitter handle of the United Nations,
Okay.
and the United Nations have put on the Twitter handle that 300,000 refugees in Tanzania must not be turned away. Do you understand? I said, okay, even in Nigeria, we have much more than that, something in excess of that. But the thing is, you have brought people to the point that they now feel there is no home to go back to, and the IDP camp is the place to be. Number one, and that's why you can now tell them, oh, we are going to tweak the constitution a little bit so that you can vote there. Where do they call their own constituency? What are they voting for? What is coming to them from the political processes that they are partaking in? That's one. Number two is the fact that at the end of the day, the host communities where the IDP camps are situated, do they see them as part of us, or they see them as we're doing them a favor? Do you understand? So you now think of the social disruption that has gone into the lives of people in the IDP camps. Education, health facilities, town planning, provision, enjoyment of social infrastructures and so many other things. So for me, I think the government is just, it has become good business that as long as those as those camps are open, the donors will keep the donations coming in, and then everybody is just okay. And the only thing, as far as you are concerned, they are just occupying a part of time that we don't really have any need for. But it begs the question of how much do we see these people as part, and that their lives must return to normalcy. We don't seem to be bothered about the fact that they are entitled to normal lives.
But how about them? How about how they feel about themselves?
Ayo, when you are helplessness has brought them to that situation. And helplessness means the fact that as much as I can do for myself, I've done so far. I've been able to keep myself safe. Do you understand? Divinity has kept me safe. But beyond that, I like I always say, the followership is accountable to the leadership. But the leadership is responsible and accountable to the followership. You understand? In the case of the followership, is about accountability. But in the case of the leadership, is accountability and responsibility for. So if they've been accountable, if they say they've been accountable, have they shown enough good responsibility for everybody that is counted as a citizen of this country? In that regard, whether the sitting government, whether the previous government, even the ones who are aspiring to come into place, they've not convinced me enough that every Nigerian can actually be called a stakeholder and not a stakeholder statement. That is the problem.
You did one giggle when I was talking earlier. Do you have something to add as a round of this segment?
I think it's important to say this, that the issue of security is one that, like you rightly alluded to it too, is one that it's obvious that these candidates are only playing politics with it. As much as I can see, I do not see a wholesome strategy or roadmap on how they intend to combat it. Amnesty International released a report sometime, I think July or August, stating number of deaths in Nigeria between January and June or July. Yeah, it was released in September, stating deaths across zones. And I was surprised that, for instance, Oyo State recorded about 10 deaths. Now, they don't make the news. It tells you of the level of insecurity. I travel to the north every quarter, and I mean the core north. And
you mean 10 deaths or 10,000?
10
just
deaths
10
in Oyo State.
Okay.
Now, but these things don't get reported. Now, the fact we cannot deny is that we need to begin to ask ourselves, how well or how good is our policing system? What is, or how do we intend to solve the legitimacy problem? You say police is your friend, but does the ordinary man on the street see the police as his friend? Now, how good is our civil-military relations? See, the birth of Boko Haram crisis basically was as a result of the poor civil-military relations. See, a country that encourages injustice is first and foremost a creator of terror, and secondly, a victim of that same terror it creates. When you encourage injustice, then you are simply saying, see, a lot of those guys who volunteered for Boko Haram eventually were victims of this injustice. Now, soldiers go into a community, and because they are looking for insurgents, begin to manhandle their women or even kill their men, and then their kids become embittered. So, We need to ask ourselves, exactly, so we begin to ask ourselves the question, how good is our civil military relations? Now, how well do you see a soldier is walking on the street and then he tells you a bloody civilian? So some of these maladies need to be talked about. What is the roadmap? If we really intend to build a global economy, for 2030 as we keep saying, or 2020 as we keep saying, then we need to fix a lot of these things. If security is not there, forget it. Ordinary, let me just use that word, ordinary, NSCDC. Because an officer is carrying the rifle, how does he see the ordinary civilian? But if you also want to blame these persons, how good is the accommodation issue? Go to the different police colleges, and then you cannot marvel at how our police officers turn out. They can't be sleeping in a bedbug infested area where a lot of them are the ones buying their uniform and their boots. They are the ones buying their belts.
So that's why they turn out the way they do.
And so you now say that, see, many times when we want to blame them, we should also be able to look inward. It would surprise you to know that from what I found out, a report says that only 3,000 is allocated to each police station for maintenance monthly.
That's debatable, or you're saying that factually?
I tell you this factually.
Because
now, tell me. So if you want to go get a bail and they tell you bail is free, and the policewoman or policeman at the counter tells you, okay, bail is free, but we need to fumigate. So some of these things are, see, so as much as we want to, we can always say, let's blame the system. But a lot of these people are also victims of the system.
Okay. You wanted to add something?
To support what he's saying, just in the papers this morning, they said 20,000 policemen are being withdrawn from non-essential duties to be part of it. And I'm telling you, so that means those are 20,000 policemen that should have been part of the law enforcement, proper law enforcement. And the people that they are being withdrawn from, that means the people who really do not need them. So you can imagine 20,000 men. So when you begin to now wonder why we have insecurity problems, these things are intertwined. 20,000 men that could have been part of core policing work have been attached, and where they would have preferred to, because I'm with Oga, extra is coming. Instead of me to go and do the regular bit, I would rather be with Oga who gives me more. So those are the things, those are the challenges that are apparent but have been papered.
So in summary, as far as you're concerned, you don't think any of the aspirants has really done enough in convincing us about how they are willing to combat security? Just in one sentence, because of time, can we just have one sentence each from you as far as the submission is concerned on the security issue?
One interesting thing about choice is that it is like the tale of the 5 blind men and the elephant. So whatever part you touch for you defines what your choice will be. For me, I do not see any of them having a good grasp of what the country needs at the moment.
As far as security is concerned.
As far as security and even economy is concerned.
Okay, so Mr. Faye.
For me, for most of them, they just want to tell us what they think we want to hear, forgetting the fact that we actually analyze the things they say, and they've just shown the depth of their understanding of the problems and what they are preferring. They have not convinced me well enough.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, we've been speaking with Mr. Feishiton Ijimakewa as a public affairs analyst, and Mr. Amuda Osigodi. I got it right. He's also a public affairs analyst. We'll take a break. The conversation continues, and yes, we'll be retaining Mr. Feyi Ijimakewa. He'll still be with us, but we'll have another guest in a moment. You don't want to miss the next part of it. Stay with us.
Many thanks for staying with us, and if you're just joining us, the program is still Breakfast Weekend, and we've been discussing the presidential elections coming up next week, Saturday. We're taking a look at the town hall meetings that had all the aspirants invited to discuss their plans for Nigeria, and we still have Mr. Feyi Ijimakewa with us in the studio, but he's been joined by another public affairs analyst. We have Babajide Olapade. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Feyi, that is a very
thank you for your patience.
There is a very important issue as far as Nigeria is concerned, and that is the issue of corruption. And we have the question, put forward to all the, I mean, the 4 aspirants we're looking at basically today, and they had their say. What do you have to say about corruption as it affects Nigeria, and also as they try to convince us as far as what they will do is concerned?
For me, I think the reason why Nigeria has not lived up to its potentialities right from the time the nation came into being has been corruption. And corruption, it predates any of the two. It goes back as far back as you can think of. But it's, on the other hand, it makes me cover my face in shame as a Nigerian to think that in the 21st century, a political party, or rather it has become a cardinal point for anybody that wants to get into office, that will be thinking corruption is an anomaly. It should not be part of any decent society. But to let you know the magnitude of the problem, it has become so. Is it that for those who say, oh, for the 16 years we've been there, our body language showed that we didn't like corruption, but it wasn't really a problem? Or for those who are saying, oh, we've been fighting it, and those of us those of us who are watching are asking that, but how well do you think you have done? Because if you've been fighting it long enough and you've been wielding the axe, so many heads even in your party should have been cut. But more importantly is the fact that what corruption has done for Nigeria is the fact that it has just given us what I call like a baby that's had a stunted growth. A baby that should be that's by age is 12 years and by looking like somebody like 3. So you can, number one, the child will not be able to do what he should do for his age. The child will not be able to eat what he should eat for his age. The child is not even reflecting all that's gone inside, whether by care or by nutrition or so that is what has happened to Nigeria. But for all the candidates, I think all of them are just telling us what we want to hear. I will fight corruption, I will fight corruption, I will fight corruption. But how do you fight something that has become your identity, your way of life, a second skin? And that's what corruption has done in Nigeria. So for me, I think we would have loved to hear a very proactive way you will fight corruption. It's not by lining. Some people will say word on the street, oh, line up everything the China way or the Ghanaian way and everything. That may not work for us here. But what may work for us could be a reorientation. It could be a revaluation of ourselves as people, or it could just be a realignment of our thought pattern, of our values and our dispositions to things like that. But for me, I think the most important thing is that if we do not fight corruption, like somebody said, and it has become something that you can't shy away from, but how many people in this place or among the lots that we expect to fight corruption is actually cleaning of the stain of corruption?
Thank you, Mr. Faye. Mr. Lapade, Shore in particular did say something about, he said he's going to push for life ban for convicted public officials as far as corruption is concerned. He also said that they are going to be, he's going to strip them of their national honors. That's those of them that have national honors. What do you think about? Do you think that will work in curbing corruption in Nigeria?
Well, in my opinion, there is no measure that is adopted that is too stringent or too strong to curb corruption.
Okay.
But the unfortunate thing is that it is easy for a candidate to say he's going to do this. He's not the one to implement. The institutions that are going to implement are corrupt. So how do you ensure it? I was listening to some of the speeches they were making where the incumbent president said that the institutions that are supposed to be doing these things, they have given them the mandate to do it, but they have not done them.
Why do you think they are not doing what they should do?
They have the heads, they have the structure on ground to push this thing through. But if they refuse to do it, they have the autonomy. How will the candidate that is saying he's going to do this, he can recommend it.
But why do you think those who are supposed to do this or execute these things are not executing?
Okay. Corruption is a fundamental thing now in Nigeria. It is not just the leaders that are corrupt. A 5-year-old child is corrupt. Every Nigerian is corrupt.
I am not.
Everybody is corrupt.
I am not.
No, but they say this things trickle from the top down. Don't you think if you get it right at the top, we could do something meaningful?
We planted the seed. It has now germinated into a very big tree. Now we are looking at the tree from the apex. Even down in the roots. An average young person wants to drive a Benz without working hard for it. How do you get it if you're not corrupt? An average secretary wants to live like the Oga. And he knows that his salary cannot make it. There is no way we can continue to live like this beyond our means. And we all are responsible for this. We are all equal to the task. We have all contributed in one way or the other. Because we see people around, they live a life of affluence, they flash their wealth around, and nobody bothers to ask them, what do you do for a living? What is your salary? How did you make this income?
So what do we do? How do we curb it? How do we curb
If
corruption?
Nigeria is going to curb corruption, then everybody needs to be on their toes. We need to start asking ourselves questions. The government that is allocating funds, we need to know what are they allocating it to? How is it being spent? Is it being spent on what they said is going to be spent on? I need to be able to ask my neighbor, how are you living your life?
And
how are you making this living?
What if it tells you it's not your business?
Well, there should be an authority I should be able to report to. But unfortunately, if I report to the authority, they are going to tell my neighbor that I reported them.
I want to believe we still have the whistleblower policy ongoing, where people are supposed to report
that's
things like
exactly
that.
one of the things that one of the aspirants said is going to take up.
So well. But how many whistleblowers have we heard about? How many whistles have been blown?
They blew a number of whistles when that policy
at the
came
initial
out.
stage.
But I don't know. You want to say something?
You know how it goes in
For me,
Nigeria.
I'm going to say that most of the time when we talk about corruption, we look at it from, it's multifaceted.
Okay.
Social corruption, political corruption, economic corruption.
Okay.
So that is what sides down to what he said, that every aspect of the Nigerian life is corrupt. But the thing is, for the people in office or who occupy positions of leadership, the most important thing is that, do we have strong institutions, like he said, to fight corruption? If the institutions are not strong enough, they will not be able to fight. So they will have the mandate, but they will not have the machineries. They might have the mandate and the machinery, but they will not have the willpower. They will not have the boldness. Do you understand? Now, there was a video that went viral that talks about a minister in Botswana who was arrested at the airport upon his return to the country on corruption charges from the airport. Do you understand? He was trying to prove big man, but they showed him that these are papers and everything. He was led away in a handcuff. And I'm asking that, who can do that in Nigeria? If somebody, it depends. I'm from Ondo State, and somebody says, oh, Feyoke, leave the team that's going to arrest somebody. Another thing, somebody tells me, do you know it's from your part of the country? Would they have been done if it's somebody from that part of the country? So there's so many divisive factors that is making things, the malady of corruption, to thrive in our climate. Everything, whether it's political corruption, economic corruption, or social corruption. So that is why you find these seeds in one way or the other in every aspect of life. So it is not really about the fact that people who come into office and take away public fund, but it's about the values that have been eroded. It's about our projections, our perceptions that have been thwarted by so many things, and it's no longer about the fact that we see things, evaluate things based on merit. It is always tainted by one sentimental consideration or the other, and that is where corruption thrives. It can always hide under something.
So now that this is your stance, I don't know if you heard when Atiku was talking about granting amnesty to political treasury looters who, how did you react to it? Do you think it was a good move?
I was very livid because very wrongly he actually said, oh, there's an example of Turkey, and I said, oh, okay, let's even say there are 152 countries in the world, and you brought me an example of one, and I even said, even in Turkey, it's wrong. I wish I was in the audience. I would have told you that, sir, that was a very wrong thing. President Erdogan of Turkey today is still battling corruption because he's saying that people who are funding the problems he has in his government are doing so from outside. So you tell me because somebody brings back the money, you grant him amnesty. And for God's sake, do you know what amnesty means? Amnesty does not mean go and sin no more. Amnesty means you never sinned. You are restored. So somebody who has taken our commonwealth, who has plundered, even though let me say he has brought back just 10% of it, you say it is okay. Who wants to come back? If he tells you that, who wants to come back?
And let us realize that the younger generation are learning, and they are learning fast. So if you say that you are going to give amnesty to someone that has stolen public funds for returning a certain percentage of it, then you should be prepared for the younger generation to steal much more, because we know that we are just going to have to return some and we live life with the rest.
We'll be fine.
So I see that as a very wrong move. You don't build an economy based on corrupt practices.
Now there's an angle Mogalu looked at it from. He said that he will make the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission independent of the presidency.
Definitely, that's what I said. Because number one, if the person who is going to fight corruption, if he reports to the president, there will be political considerations.
Okay.
If he's handpicked by the government, by the president, there is no way. And that is why we can always today, I said it somewhere this morning, that, and that is why you can say every organ or institutions are seen as an appendages of the ruling party, because they are appointed by the sitting president. But if they are independently, the headship is independently appointed, independently run, then that is why you can find judges that can say, oh, we are giving orders for a minister to be arrested. We are saying that the head of an arm of government is wrong and is not about who are. But when the person is appointed by the president, is answerable to the person or another, there will be that sympathetic consideration for, is two things. Rule number one, Oga is always right. Rule number two, even if Oga is wrong, rule number one applies. Oga is always right. So that is where it comes to at the end of the day. So there always that consideration for, this is the person that's put me there. I must not be seen to be kicking against him. I must not be seen to be even going against his interest. So he forgets the fact that he's serving the nation and not serving the personality that has appointed him into office. So for me, I think in strengthening those institutions, it goes as far as about the headship and the constitution of the institutions, because when those institutions are well strengthened, that they can actually be independent, as I said, autonomous, and be able to do what they are set up to.
So as far as I'm concerned, that's a tick.
It is a major tick.
We cannot but look at the education sector and the stance of the candidates to how education is at the moment and what they have to offer. And we have a very short clip on that. We'll take that at the moment. Just stay with us.
Federal, the state, and the local governments, and the allocation of resources, revenue allocation formula, and so on, relative to the resources available to the country, monies are dispensed to the three-tier government system. So the question of Al-Majri's case, this lack of virtually primary, the basic education, are all local government problems. So even if the center has extra money, they wouldn't take it and build classrooms, equip them, employ qualified teachers from the federal revenue, while it is the duty of the local governments. If the local governments are not being given the money by the governors or by the state, then it's up to the local governments to come together and scream loud enough for Nigerians to hear them.
Views around education, particularly with reference to the 13 million children that he talked about that are roaming the streets of northern Nigeria. In other words, the Al-Majri kids that we hear again and again about.
Actually, the Al-Majri case and the education in the north is something to really look into. And it's not even only in the northern part of the country. We can see that there's a kind of very, very big challenge we're having in Nigeria where the schools are not even available. So actually have a very, very big plan for even restructuring the educational system. Especially, the first thing is even putting the schools on ground. Because I know in a lot of villages now, a lot of remote areas, you go and you even see there are no schools because it's only the infrastructure. A lot of, the infrastructure is not there. And most of the students are even learning under the tree. So we intend to raise the budget of education. As we all know that today's budget we're having in Nigeria is not even up to the standard of UNESCO.
What is the percentage of the national budget that you would devote to education if you
We
are
are
elected?
thinking of starting with 25%. I think currently it's only 10%, right? So, and which I think most of it is going to the expenditure of the ministry. So we want to make sure that the budget is being increased and will go directly to where it's supposed to go.
Well, we have two of their stances. A clip that is not there is that of Omoyele Sowore, who said health-wise, security-wise, education, especially for the Almajiris, is something of utmost importance that Nigerians are not really paying attention to. But let's take it one after the other. The incumbent president talked about it being the responsibility of the local government. At present, would you say they are doing enough? You know, if you're saying it's their responsibility, if they're doing enough, cool. But if they're not, why are we where we are? What are your thoughts about this, Mr. Olapaji?
Well, we can't say that the primary education is doing enough in Nigeria because of the quality of education. Most people would prefer to send their children to private schools because when you visit those schools, even the structures are dilapidated. The teachers are not well trained. The students, they appear most times started, so they are not really doing enough. But then the government has been segmented to handle these things. The federal government should, the local government should focus more on the primary education. And from what I was able to understand, even the state government has not been able to empower the local governments to do what they're supposed to be doing. They've not been releasing the funds for them. So under such circumstances, how are they supposed to carry out their responsibilities?
He's talking about them screaming loud enough.
Yes,
how do they do that? How is that achieved?
Well, how will the local government chairman scream loud when he was installed by the governor? It is not really going to happen. So most times, it boils down to the fact that people are not given the autonomy to carry out their activities, and it is going to have a ripple effect over time. Primary education is primary and secondary education are about the most important set of education. But then it is being jeopardized because we are not putting in the right effort into it. And when resources have been allocated to it, most of it goes into the running of the ministry, as rightly said. It doesn't really go into the academic programs. Back in the days, we used to have free books. They used to distribute free books. Do we ever have that these days? No.
Maybe they share one or two. Mr. Ijimakinwa, what are your thoughts, please?
No, for me, we need to get the balance right. If we say primary education under UBEC is under the local government, the first thing is that is the local government structure in place in Nigeria? People are not elected. Local governments, their funds come through the state government. So the state sits on their funds and just give out pittances. So the statutory functions of the local governments, they cannot carry out. So that is why the primary education sector is suffering. Secondary education, which is under state governments themselves, you find some states saying they are building model colleges, millennium schools, and they build one for 4 years. It's even happening in this our state. Do you understand? So you begin to wonder if the primary education cannot function. It cannot even function because those who will fund them, they are not funded. They don't have independence of funding. Their funds don't come directly to them, and that is why they are still fighting for local government autonomy because so many things are tied to them. Now, tertiary education in itself, it's so consuming. At least I'm in that sector, and I'm telling you that researchers are suffering. Research the practical does not even exist in Nigeria, and that is why you're finding it difficult so that they can meet global standards. And it's so education generally. So 10% of the budget that goes into it right now, most of it goes into overhead. So the actual structures, the infrastructures that are needed, the curriculum expansion and the curriculum maintenance is not. They are suffering. So at the end of the day, so it's not the Almajiris. The Almajiri syndrome is being reproduced in different ways and different guises all over the place. Go to Mokola here, under the bridge, you understand, all over town. Go to Lagos, go to the east and everything. So it has become a social problem that has assume a Herculean stature in Nigeria, and it is just a function of the fact that we're not getting it right. The president knows what he's talking about, but at the same time, he cannot order that. So I think for me, the start-off point, let there be local government autonomy, so that they get their funds, they're able to face their statutory functions, and then we cannot begin to assess them that whether you have failed or not. But when you don't have the fund, you don't have the direct fund to do what you're supposed to do, you can't blame them where they are shortfalls.
Looking at the elections, but before now people were clamoring for young people to come out and contest. Now we have two young ones. I mean, in respect to the town hall meetings we are looking at today, we have two young ones and we have two older ones. Now, from what you've seen, Atiku is saying that he's coming out because, I mean, what gives him edge over others is his experience. Do you think from all you've seen that these young ones have what it takes to be the kind of leaders that Nigeria demands or needs at this point in time?
Please, let's make it as brief as
possible. When they came with the not too young to run, and I said, okay, there's a difference between not too young to run and not too young to rule. Build up. The highest thing you can do is to get into political office. But I tell you, how many of these people had civic engagements? That is where you build experiences in leadership.
So you think experience counts?
So experience counts. And experience should have been built. It's not necessarily about the office. It's about civic engagements where you feel the pulse of the people. The young people, I'm sorry to say, they've not shown themselves very well in that regard. It goes beyond virtual presence and virtual activism. But the fact is that there should have been civic engagement that would have built you up to let you know. And I think in retrospect, they are actually not even just coming to it that, oh, we may not be able to get to the highest office at the full blast, but by the time we build ourselves, we understand, so that by the time we are asking for that, we'll be able to speak the language that people will make people know that we understand what is going on, what is needed.
Mr. Olakwade, quickly, please.
Well, experience for me doesn't really count as such.
Okay.
If experience was so important, I wouldn't have been a man of the moon in the first place. The mind of a young person is the storehouse of most brilliant ideas, and it takes the willingness to go all out and achieve them. If these young ones feel they can actually take the bull by the horn, face the cabals and all the powers that be, and fight them down to the ground, then let them go. Because those that have experience, obviously they have vested interest.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. We have been speaking with Mr. Babajide Olakwade, he's a public affairs analyst, and again, Faye Sheton Ijimakenwa, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming.
Well, we'll take a break now to go to another segment of the program. Stay with us. Thank you so much for still being a part of Breakfast Weekend on Impact Africa Television, IATV. And this segment, we want to look at how to preserve our culture, our cultural values, our cultural heritage. It is said that somehow, especially the Yoruba culture, is slowly going into extinction. A number of people have even predicted that in a future not too distant, the Yoruba culture may have totally gone into extinction. The Yoruba language especially may also not be found in its pure form anymore. Why? Because the younger generation are not accepting it so much, and the older ones who are the custodians of the culture, who are the custodians of this heritage, well, are passing away, and some of them are not passing these values down. This morning on Breakfast Weekend, we have a cultural ambassador, award-winning performer, bata dancer, musician, actor, choreographer, and poet. In the person of Khalid Ayoshino Beriola. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Ejirebi.
Welcome to the show. It's good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning.
So what does culture mean to you?
Culture to me, I think it has to do with my way of life, my everything. The way I do my things naturally. The way I, it's just part of me.
So you'd say a person's culture is that person's identity?
Yeah, because seeing you